Miles to nowhere. It's my 50th birthday, and I'm going to go to the Cuhutta wilderness to do a hike. I feel like the Jackson River Trail would be the perfect hike because I have never done it before. I start the day 6 a.m. with a fried egg sandwich, roast beef, pickles, mayo on rye bread. All I need now is some coffee to wash this down with, and I stop in Nashville, Tennessee at a coffee shop. I have actually never been to this coffee shop as a coffee shop. I have been to this building when it was a tattoo shop. In 1995, I started tattooing in Nashville at a place called Fantasy Tattoo at this location. Being surrounded by these walls brought back so many memories. I mean, I could just see myself standing in this room back in 1995. I didn't stay driving down memory lane for very long. I had to hit the road, the actual road, and head down to the Cuhutta Wilderness. It's just south of Chattanooga, in rural Tennessee, rural Georgia, northern Georgia. Man, I love this place. I would say the roads were rough, but at the same time, they were pretty much par for any kind of campground wilderness that you'll have to travel. I came very unprepared for this hike. I didn't have any maps of the wilderness, and I had really no idea even what the wilderness looked like. Near the river, I come across the Cottonwood Patch campground, so I decided to stay there for the night. I believe it was an equestrian campground, but there was nobody else there, no horses, no people, so I went ahead and camped out, paid my money in the little envelope that I put in the little metal box, and went out and gathered some firewood and got ready for a nice, relaxing night of camping. I usually don't camp near the truck or in a campground, but sometimes when you have to, you have to. You enjoy the comforts of camping like everybody else does. Darkside prepared a little birthday meal for me. That was really nice of Darkside. After I started the fire, I sat around the fire and closed my eyes, and the locust sang me to sleep. But I got up early the next morning, ready to hike. I had camped not far from the trailhead of the Jackson River Trail. I had read the All Trails reviews, of course, and the All Trails reviews suggested to bring your trekking poles because it was going to be a rough trail. Although it is flat and level for most of the trail, it has several river crossings. Those river crossings turned out to be very troublesome. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but those river crossings turned out to be very troublesome. Some of the best parts of hiking a trail aren't even about the trail. I met a woman who showed me this flower. She was so excited to show me this flower. She said it was a common domesticated flower, but in the wild it did not grow in very many places. This is one of the only few places that she knew it grew. And she come to see it every year, and she showed it to me. I'm gonna have a hard time making any speed today. I'm gonna have to stop and take some pictures of this kind of stuff. Well, the trail is unpassable that way. So I guess I'm gonna walk up, over, across, and then over. It's hard to see maybe through the camera, but I'm having to cross this river. And I'm not even sure if this is where I cross or what happens on the other side. This trail is, I would say, not very well marked, but it's not marked at all. I don't know if the trail is, if I was supposed to go up or what, but it doesn't go any farther this way, and I can see a little bit of a path over here, so wish me luck. The trail is rough. Every half mile, quarter mile, you got to cross the river stream, and I'm talking up to my waist. And I'm getting my balls wet. I'm talking, it's steep. It's up to my waist. I've had to hike my backpack on top of my head, or on top of my shoulders, almost above my head, trying to keep it dry. I'm a little surprised. I believe my progress is slow. I would think that I'm not 3-4 miles in on the trail. I need to do 7 today before I reach the falls. I might be camping before the falls. It's all good. This is what I'm out here doing. Enjoying the woods, enjoying the suck, enjoying the suffering. The novelty of the river crossings wore off quickly. Every river crossing was an adventure. Every river crossing took 5 minutes of planning, 10 minutes of testing, and another 20 minutes to get across the river. My progress was slowed by the swift current, and the slippery rocks made my course very rugged. Only about 6 to 7 miles into the trip, I decided I was exhausted and I needed to set up camp. The night was quick, for I slept like a rock all night long. When I awoke, I made me some breakfast and got ready for the trail again. Concerned for my camera and phone, I packed them up into my backpack and headed back to the trailhead. They said the river was hard. Dark side, says that river, was very difficult. I woke up this morning with the intentions to go to the falls. They should not have been more than a mile and a half away. It was rough. You were crossing the river just to get to the other side of the river, to cross the river. Coming back, I like to drowned. Each river crossing was up to my waist, at least. I mean, there was no crossings at my knees. Each time I crossed the river, it was 20 minutes. Trying to get a foothold, trying not to step on a slippery rock, trying to make sure where I stepped was in the right spot, trying to navigate the river in such a way that I was having like Frogger. I was going forward, moving back, up, down, left, just to stay on ground above, below my waist. It was a really difficult hike. Just getting the 6.5 miles that I made. Maybe drowning is a strong word here. Drowning, but I slipped on the rocks. My feet come out from under me. I was in 3 or 4 feet of water that was so swift that I was not able to get a touch to the ground. And I'm paddling, I'm trying to reach down with my hands, trying to grab something and also keep myself from hitting anything. And I'm also trying to stay afloat because I've got a backpack. A backpack can get dangerously heavy quick, especially when you're swimming in water. Backpacks are made for hiking, they're not made for swimming. And here I am, I'm sliding down 5, 6, 10 feet of a rock going towards the waterfall that I was trying to traverse. and dropped my trekking poles, trying to get a grasp, trying to get a hold of everything, and I lost my trekking poles. The trekking poles floated on down the river, but I had to stop myself from going over the little ledge. It was only going to fall down a foot or two, but I didn't know what's down below that foot or two. Is it going to be another 7 feet? Is it going to be a rock down there that I catch my foot on? Am I going to hit my head on something? You don't want to be swimming with a backpack on. And then on day 2, halfway back, I lost my trekking poles. They washed down the river. I couldn't stop them. I had to stop myself again from drowning. So there they went. And I had to find walking sticks. I mean, luckily the river has plenty of pine trees and hickory trees and some sugar gum trees to supply me with some walking sticks. And I found a couple of good sized ones that were light but sturdy. And now I'm crossing these rivers with a backpack and some makeshift trekking poles. And then about a half mile down the river on a bend on some rapids that were not as swift as the rapids I lost the trekking pole in was one of my trekking poles stuck on a rock. How fortunate. One of my trekking poles was still accessible. So, crawling down to the river in a seemingly the most difficult way I could apparently, I swam out without my pack to get my trekking pole and then swam back because it was again over my head at those parts of the river. And then I lost that trekking pole 2 crossings later, so it wasn't meant to be. So I've lost both my trekking poles, and I've lost one of my hiking poles that I jerry-rigged and then threw the other one away because I had to swim across 6 foot, 7 foot of an area wide that was again water over my head. I just see no way around it. I wasn't walking back. It was more dangerous to walk back and try a different route, so I just swam again with my backpack on. Now, this time it wasn't swimming to save myself. This time it was swimming. And again, backpacks they're heavy once they get wet, so I didn't want it to get too wet. I don't want the items to get wet. So I'm trekking water. I'm dog paddling as hard as I can. You can't dog paddle with shoes on, hiking boots. That's the most useless thing ever. But I'm having to dog paddle. I'm having to tread water just as hard as I can. And in this particular area, the river wasn't swift enough to be pushing me down the stream, and I was able to make it to the other side. But even though it's only 6 feet, 6 feet is still longer than you should be swimming with a backpack on. My knees are all twisted. My ankles are sore. I've got cuts and bruises and scrapes on my legs from the river, from hiking. I got cuts and scrapes on my arms that I don't even know where they come from. It was a rough trail. I know I say this all the time, but man, this time I thought I was going to die. Too old of a man to be out here hitting these trails. Having the trails hit him. Well, that was my ramen noodle dinner rant. I made it back to camp, as you could see, safely. And I lived to tell the tale. And I lived to exaggerate the tale, apparently. But that was it. That was Miles' 50th birthday hike along the Jackson River Trail in the Cuhutta Wilderness. After setting up camp in the Cottonwood Patch campground again, I got up the next morning and headed on out. Thanks for watching the video. Come back for the next one. And save some trail for me. And save some trail for me. Please, this is Avery. I just want to talk to you.